Well, the Prime Minister has set off for Poland on the first leg of two visits that he's making today. Firstly, to Poland to deliver a speech about the unity needed amongst the West and to speak about the shared values between the United Kingdom and Poland and many of the countries in the Baltic as well, who have been working so closely with the United Kingdom. He's saying that they need to speak with one voice and continue to work together. So the Prime Minister will be meeting Polish Prime Minister Morawiecki first, before then getting on his plane again and going off to Estonia, where he will be meeting both the Prime Minister and the President of that country and the NATO Secretary-General Stoltenberg in order to bolster again that unity of the West. And of course, Estonia is one of those countries where UK troops have been going, a NATO member state, but also on that front line bordering Russia.
It's really interesting and significant that these countries are being paid attention by our Prime Minister, because often we talk about the role of the United States, the role of Germany, the role of NATO, France, whatever it happens to be. But Boris Johnson obviously sees these peripheral countries as very, very important.
Well, also, and lots of rereading of Putin's speeches, in recent days, and his previous claims not that long ago to want to try and invade Poland, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, all those countries along that way. Just in July 2015, he was making those claims.
And there are many defence sources who think that there is a risk of a domino effect whereby Putin's ambitions do not stop at Ukraine. If he is able to take Ukraine, where do his eyes go next? Well, there's plenty of parts of the world, particularly in the Baltic, that he sees of as being part of this Russian sphere of influence.
But it's so ironic that, he attacks Ukraine. I don't know where he's coming from when he talks about the Nazi regimes and whatever in Ukraine, and yet everything he's doing mirrors Hitler's advances in the Second World War.
It's really quite eerie.
Yeah.
And talking about sort of the way that we were running up to this invasion, the word appeasement was being thrown around by many, the sort of lack of willingness for many countries to go the full hog in terms of recognising how serious this was. Indeed, if we look back to 2014, potentially, there are so many parallels that can be drawn with Putin going ahead, snatching parts of Ukraine, and the international community doing very little to condemn him for it. Potentially, he did not anticipate such a united and large response from the West, because we did so little over Crimea, because we did so little over actually the Donbass as well.
So what's going on in Geneva? The Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, she's heading there today. Tell us about that one.
She is. She'll be heading off a little bit later this morning to meet with other counterparts of mainly European foreign secretaries. Again, it's about that unity of message from the West. But someone else that she's meeting in Geneva is the UN representative for refugees, which, of course, is becoming a much greater issue, as we're seeing on the front pages of newspapers, the devastation in Ukraine, and as hundreds of thousands of people attempt to leave. Of course, we heard the first iteration of the UK's refugee policy yesterday from Priti Patel, up to 100,000 people able to come, although there has been quite a lot of criticism of that policy because it is quite limited in scope. The definition of immediate family members is relatively limited, and there are some people who you and I might think of being immediate family members who, under this current policy in its current form, would not be able to come to the UK. I understand that this is just the first iteration of this policy, though. We're expecting to hear some more from Priti Patel over the coming days, and there's certainly a whole heap of political pressure on this. We saw a YouGov poll yesterday saying 77% of Britons want visa-free migration for those refugees.
That's interesting, that's surprising, and I'm not sure that would necessarily reflect a GBNews audience's view on that. So
who knows? But I mean, it would bring us in line with the European Union if they were to do that.
It's very, very interesting. It's a high figure, that, isn't it?
It certainly is, and it's. I think it reflects what people see in Ukraine. You see sort of these Western-facing streets.
They don't see these people as economic migrants,
No, certainly not. But also they see the hope that people may be wanting to come here temporarily, to move back to a free, sovereign and independent Ukraine once this nightmare is over.
Tom, look, we've got to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for that update.